There are plants you water and forget, and then there are plants that quietly rewrite the energy of your entire home every day without a word. Lucky bamboo is one of those. It doesn't bloom with drama or reach toward the sky with restless speed. It holds, it adapts, it teaches. In a world that glorifies fast growth and loud success, this humble stalk offers a different wisdom. Resilience without resistance, prosperity without pressure, and beauty without noise. It teaches you how to rise quietly, how to bend in chaos, how to survive drought, not just of water, but of direction, of hope, of clarity. And most of all, it shows your home how to remember flow when everything around you feels like friction. Too often when we talk about Feng Shui or abundance rituals, we rush to formulas. Put this here, place that there, and prosperity arrives. But real energy doesn't obey shortcuts. Real energy, wealth energy, responds to what's been prepared to hold it. And in that sense, Lucky Bamboo is less of a plant and more of a spiritual practice. Its hollow center reminds us to stay open. Its segmented stalks remind us that growth comes in stages. Its effortless grace reminds us that true power doesn't push. It aligns. Think about where you are in your life right now. Are you pushing through burnout? Are you redesigning a home, restarting a business, or simply rebuilding your energy after years of go-go-go? Maybe what you need is not a bigger goal or a sharper strategy. Maybe what you need is a quiet anchor, something that doesn't chase wealth, but invites it and holds it. This episode is about that anchor. Today we're going beyond basic placement tips or stalk numbers. We'll explore how Lucky Bamboo functions as a living, breathing energy system, an object of spiritual engineering. You'll learn how it supports households through transition, how it stabilizes finances without making noise, and how it brings emotional integrity back into overworked, overstimulated spaces. More importantly, we'll see how it quietly teaches the same thing to us: how to hold, how to align, and how to let growth come without fear. And before we go any deeper, let me ask for a moment of support from you. If this message already speaks to something stirring in your own space, if your home has been feeling misaligned, stagnant, or just quietly heavy, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone else who's rerouting themselves this season, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every new voice helps us keep this channel alive with content that isn't just spiritual, it's spatial, it's grounded, and it's designed to help your home become a mirror of your calmest, clearest self. You see, Lucky Bamboo isn't a magic charm. It's not for those who expect instant miracles. It's for those who understand that fortune doesn't arrive all at once. It drips in, it builds, and it gathers quietly in the corners we tend with care. And that's exactly why the placement, the water quality, and even the number of stalks you choose matter. They are not rules, they are invitations. When we treat this plant as a living ritual instead of decorative filler, something begins to shift, not just in the energy of our home, but in the part of us that was too tired to keep pushing. In my experience, not just as a Feng Shui practitioner, but as someone who's watched hundreds of spaces transform, the Lucky Bamboo often works best when placed not as a centerpiece, but as a quiet guardian. The kind of guardian that doesn't protect with force, but with flow. The kind that doesn't demand attention, but holds presence. And if you've been craving that kind of energy in your life, not just wealth, but the peace to receive it, then stay with me, because we're about to explore one of the most underestimated energy allies in your home. Let's begin, as all true rituals do, not with complexity, but with simplicity, not with force, but with rhythm. Let's begin with a plant that doesn't climb towards success, but channels it. A plant that bends without breaking. a plant that might just hold the wealth you've been too busy to notice. Energy signature and spiritual function. In the language of Feng Shui, few plants speak as subtly yet as profoundly as lucky bamboo, known botanically as Dracaena sanderiana. Though often reduced to a simple, water-rooted decoration sitting on office desks or bathroom counters, this plant is a layered energetic instrument when understood in its full symbolic depth. Unlike many fast-growing or visually dramatic plants that dominate attention, lucky bamboo doesn't ask for the spotlight. It holds space. It anchors energy. It harmonizes a room's nervous system without asking for applause. That quiet stability is its greatest strength. Its physical form tells the story clearly, hollow inside yet unyielding in direction. The hollowness isn't emptiness, it's openness, receptivity. In Feng Shui, that internal channel reflects the wisdom of remaining energetically porous, allowing qi to circulate and respond without obstruction. Its steady vertical stalks rise without clinging, branching, or sprawling. They don't choke neighboring objects or overstep their container. Instead, they embody what we could call vertical humility, a willingness to rise, to hold, to stretch slowly toward light without drama or demand. That's not just symbolic. That's an energy field you can feel. From a 5-element perspective, lucky bamboo is rare because it integrates all 5 core forces in a single living tableau. The stalk itself is wood, a classic element of growth, expansion, and upward potential. The water it grows in is obvious but vital, representing flow, adaptability, and the capacity to nourish over time. The pebbles or river stones anchoring the base embody earth, providing foundation, gravity, and protective weight. The red ribbon often tied around the stalk symbolizes fire, activating energy, movement, and visibility of intention. And when you add a small metal coin or place it in a metal container, you've completed the energetic circle, introducing metal, which clarifies, concentrates, and supports discipline. This is more than aesthetics. It's sacred arrangement. It's home-based alchemy. And yet, lucky bamboo doesn't feel mystical. It feels calm. It thrives in simplicity. Its spiritual function, therefore, is not to bring wealth like a lucky ticket might, but to prepare your space to hold wealth without leaking it. It conditions your environment the same way breath conditions your body, not with noise, but with rhythm. Many people chase prosperity like a performance. They bring in objects, chant affirmations, redesign corners of their homes, hoping for sudden outcomes. But the truth is, real prosperity, lasting, stable, grounded prosperity, cannot grow in places where qi has no patience. Lucky bamboo is a living lesson in that truth. It says, prosperity is not found in the loudest rooms. It's found where harmony is consistent. That's why lucky bamboo is best suited for people who understand process. It doesn't respond well to chaotic energy. It doesn't spike. It doesn't crash. It harmonizes slowly. It holds what it's given. It mirrors your habits back to you. If you tend to it, refresh its water, keep its pebbles clean, trim its stalks gently, and position it with purpose, it will stand with you. If you neglect it, over-decorate it, or treat it like background noise, it will reflect that too. That's the sacred honesty of this plant. It doesn't bloom or wilt dramatically. It shifts subtly, just like the kind of wealth that shows up after months of focused thought and quiet correction. Its energy signature is not for someone sprinting toward a finish line. It's for the one who has chosen to walk with intention, who knows that timing is not the enemy, that discipline is not restriction, that true prosperity doesn't require a rush, it requires readiness. Lucky bamboo is for the space that needs patience, not pressure. It's for the individual who is no longer asking the world for miracles, but asking themselves, am I making room for what I say I want? Because once your space becomes calm enough, clear enough, open enough, prosperity doesn't need to be summoned. It arrives, quietly, like water through a stalk. Placement strategy. When it comes to harnessing the full energy of lucky bamboo, placement is everything, not just in terms of physical coordinates, but in how the plant's silent energy merges with the purpose of the space. The most ideal placement, according to classical Feng Shui wisdom, is the southeast corner of your home or workspace. This is the zone associated with wealth, long-term fortune, and stable financial flow. But simply putting the plant there isn't enough. You're not staging decor, you're inviting energy. The bamboo should sit in clear water. Water that's changed regularly, not stagnant. A red ribbon tied near the stalk ignites the fire element, giving the intention momentum. 1 or 3 small Chinese coins placed beneath or beside the vessel subtly call into the metal element to reinforce structure and intentional discipline around money. This isn't superstition, it's symbolism. And in Feng Shui, symbolism becomes action through placement. Another effective location is the entryway, especially if your front door opens directly into your living space without a vestibule or protective threshold. In this case, lucky bamboo becomes more than a plant. It becomes a gatekeeper, not loud or ornamental, but softly directive. It tells incoming energy that harmony lives here, that balance is valued here, and that only aligned energy should enter. This quiet signal, placed subtly near the doorway, on a small shelf, a console, or even a floating stand, has a ripple effect that you won't always notice instantly, but you will feel. Moments of tension soften, movement flows more fluidly through the home. You begin to find that guests linger where they used to rush, and conversations in that space become more intentional, less erratic. Another excellent location is near your desk or workspace, especially if your work involves long hours, digital exposure, or creative development. Here, the lucky bamboo doesn't function as decor, it serves as an energy stabilizer. It absorbs low-frequency noise from electronics, reduces stagnant mental patterns, and helps you anchor into slow progress, especially during times of creative drought or project plateaus. However, this placement demands respect. Water must remain clear. Stalks should be upright and evenly spaced. A bamboo plant placed in your work zone with cloudy water or faded ribbon doesn't support flow, it reflects confusion. And confusion in the wealth-generating corner of your work life can quietly interrupt clarity, communication, and consistency. If you're using this placement, treat it like a ritual, not a convenience. Equally important to where you do place lucky bamboo is where you don't. One of the most common missteps is placing it in the bathroom. This is often done under the logic that bamboo likes moisture. And while that's true in horticultural terms, it's energetically problematic. Bathrooms are where qi flows out, where it exits, drains, and clears. In Feng Shui, placing a symbol of wealth in the zone most associated with release creates a contradiction. The very thing you're trying to attract is being constantly flushed away. So even if your bathroom has beautiful light and a perfect windowsill, resist the temptation. Bamboo here becomes a signal of outflow, not abundance. Another subtle but important area to avoid is overexposed, high-traffic zones, like chaotic hallways or beneath direct sunlight near large windows. Lucky bamboo, while strong, is energetically modest. It doesn't perform well when forced to compete with fast-moving energy. This is a plant that thrives on whispered qi, not blazing spotlight. In fact, when placed in harsh light or constantly walked past, the bamboo's internal system begins to dry out faster. Its leaves yellow and its roots weaken, subtly mirroring your own sense of burnout, of fatigue, in overly stimulated areas of your life. This plant, like the wealth it represents, thrives where it's valued, not where it's overexposed. And finally, there is one placement rule that transcends room or function: elevation. Never place lucky bamboo on the floor, under a desk, or tucked behind furniture, like an afterthought. In energy language, floor-level items absorb the dust and stagnation of whatever lies beneath your awareness. This is not just a plant, it is an active part of your home's financial chi. It deserves eye level, heart level, or at the very least, a raised platform where it can participate in the space. The most energetically successful bamboo arrangements are the ones that are noticed, not because they're flashy, but because they're in the right position to do their job. So whether your goal is long-term savings, career stability, or simply creating a more receptive environment for opportunity to enter, remember, placement is intention made physical. Lucky bamboo isn't a miracle, but when placed with presence and maintained with care, it becomes a silent partner in the story of your prosperity, not just cheering from the sidelines, but rooting right beside you. The meaning of stalks. Understanding the meaning behind the number of bamboo stalks isn't just a matter of tradition, it's about energetically programming your environment. In Feng Shui, numbers aren't decorative. They're directional. Each number holds its own vibration, its own message, and its own function in shaping the chi of your space. And when it comes to lucky bamboo, those stalks are not just stems. They're signals, subtle but powerful declarations of the type of support you're inviting into your life. Begin with 2 stalks. This is the bamboo arrangement that speaks to harmony, but not in the abstract sense. It's grounded in relationship dynamics. 2 is the number of partnership, of mutual understanding, of communication that doesn't just speak, but listens. A 2-stalk arrangement is perfect for couples looking to deepen their bond, heal from past arguments, or reinforce the energetic tether between them. It's also ideal for individuals calling in new partnership energy, romantic or platonic, because it softens the field around them and sends a vibrational cue that they are open, balanced, and ready to receive another soul who mirrors that energy. If placed on a shared altar or a bedside table, it carries a silent prayer. May we grow together gently with flexibility and grace. Now consider 3 stalks. This is arguably the most iconic bamboo configuration. In traditional Chinese symbolism, 3 represents Fu, Lu, and Shou, happiness, wealth, and longevity. These are the foundational pillars of what we consider the good life. A 3-stalk bamboo is ideal for families, new beginnings, or anyone who is building something meaningful across multiple areas of their life. It's not focused solely on money or health. It aims to harmonize the full ecosystem of your well-being. Place this in your southeast wealth corner or near your home's entryway, and let it become a quiet reminder that you are not just chasing outcomes. You are curating a life built on joy, stability, and continuity. Then there's 5 stalks, a number often underestimated but immensely potent. In Feng Shui, 5 is associated with the balance of all 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. It is comprehensive. A 5-stalk arrangement energetically supports people seeking harmony, not in one area, but across the full spectrum: career, health, relationships, finances, and spiritual clarity. It works like a tuning fork for your home's chi, helping you navigate periods of uncertainty or complexity with more equilibrium. If your life feels like it's moving in too many directions, or if you've been trying to juggle multiple responsibilities without a sense of center, this is the number to bring in. It's the bamboo arrangement for integration, for finding your rhythm without needing to control every note. Next is 6 stalks. In many Chinese dialects, the word for 6 sounds like flow or smooth progress, and it's widely regarded as a number of financial luck, particularly when connected to external business endeavors. A 6-stalk bamboo arrangement is particularly useful for entrepreneurs, freelancers, or anyone whose income depends on movement, deals, and growth. It supports the kind of wealth that doesn't just enter, but circulates. Money that breathes, expands, and renews. Placing this arrangement near your desk, your home office, or even in a retail space can create an undercurrent of prosperity that feels less like a hustle and more like alignment. It's a way of saying to the universe, I'm open to flow, I trust the cycle, let what I offer come back in fullness and ease. 8 stalks take that idea of flow and extend it into rebirth. In Feng Shui, 8 is a number of transformation. It symbolizes new beginnings, infinite potential, and a turning of the karmic wheel. This is the bamboo arrangement you want when something has ended and something new is beginning. Whether it's a career shift, a new home, the beginning of a marriage, or the quiet internal decision to become someone different than who you were before. 8 isn't about grandiosity, it's about courage. The courage to plant again, to trust again, to build again. Use this number when you're not just seeking abundance, but when you're reinventing the vessel that will hold it. And then there's the number to avoid, 4. In many Asian cultures, especially Chinese and Vietnamese traditions, the pronunciation of the word 4 closely resembles the word for death. And in energetic terms, a 4-stalk bamboo is seen not as neutral, but actively inauspicious. It doesn't just mean nothing, it invites stagnation, decay, or energetic closures. Even if it's given as a gift with good intentions, it's customary to either return or rework it. And if you're purchasing bamboo for yourself or someone else, skip this number. Not out of fear, but out of alignment. There are so many more supportive options available, so why invite misalignment when you can so easily choose resonance? One final ritual tip to infuse your bamboo with personal intention. Once you've selected your number of stalks, tie a red silk ribbon around the base. But don't pull it tight. Let it rest lightly, symbolically reminding you that wealth should never feel like pressure. It should breathe. The ribbon activates fire energy, enhancing visibility and action, while the silk holds softness. Wealth in this ritual is not something you grip. It's something you nurture, support, and allow to expand on its own timeline. Jack Ma's bamboo, before Alibaba became a global tech titan, before IPOs, boardrooms, and billions. There was a modest apartment in Hangzhou, a small whiteboard, and a bamboo arrangement that quietly shaped one of the world's greatest entrepreneurial stories. Staff who worked with Jack Ma in the company's earliest days still recall the way his workroom was set up. No lavish decor, no designer flair, just purpose distilled into presence. And at the heart of that presence stood a low porcelain dish. In it, several stalks of lucky bamboo, bound near the base with a red silk thread, nestled into a bed of smooth river stones. They weren't placed there for show. They weren't a gift. They were his ritual, deliberate, humble, and deeply personal. Every morning before meetings or brainstorming sessions, Jack reportedly approached that bamboo arrangement, not with reverence, but with respect. He would check the water, adjust the stalks, sometimes even roll one of the stones between his fingers as he thought. It wasn't about superstition, it was about orientation. The bamboo stood next to the whiteboard where he mapped Alibaba's future, and its presence wasn't a visual break, it was a mental anchor, a silent collaborator that never offered answers, but always held space for the questions that mattered most. In that apartment, with only a handful of employees and a head full of uncertainty, Jack Ma was building more than a company. He was building alignment, and the bamboo helped him stay centered when the path ahead was anything but clear. What makes this story remarkable isn't the plant, it's what the plant reflected. The lucky bamboo didn't make Alibaba successful, but it did something far more important. It helped its founder stay in the right energy to become the kind of leader who could navigate both scarcity and scale. When vision blurred or tension ran high, Jack didn't just push harder. He paused. He returned to the simplest form of recalibration, tending to something alive, grounded, and unhurried. A few leaves, a shallow bowl, a moment of clarity, and from that rooted stillness, he would return to the board with renewed focus. And here's the deeper truth for all of us. Sometimes the most powerful rituals are not about belief. They're about structure. They're about reminding yourself, through repetition, through attention, who you are and what matters, even when the world around you becomes chaotic. That bamboo didn't grow his company, but it held his state of mind while he grew himself. So the next time you walk past your own bamboo or adjust a plant that seems like background, remember it may be quietly shaping the conditions for something extraordinary. Ritual isn't about magic, it's about memory. It's about the daily act of returning to your core. Just like Jack did, one stalk at a time. Common mistakes to avoid. Mistakes with lucky bamboo rarely come from bad intention. They come from forgetfulness, from treating it like a decorative item instead of what it truly is, a living, energetic ritual. And when neglected, this ritual can begin sending mixed signals into your space, quietly disrupting the very wealth energy it was meant to harmonize. Let's begin with the most common one, stagnant water. Letting the water beneath your bamboo sit too long, cloud over, or collect invisible film is not just a lapse in care. It is a symbolic invitation for stagnation to take hold in your financial life. In Feng Shui, water is movement, wealth, emotion, and flow. When that flow goes cloudy, it tells the qi in your space that nothing new is coming, nothing is circulating, and nothing is being cleared. The rule is simple. Every 7 to 10 days, the water must be refreshed. Lift the stalks, rinse the roots gently, and let the stones breathe. Don't just pour in new water on top of the old. Empty, clean, refill. Because energy, like wealth, thrives in clarity, not clutter. The second mistake is often made by those with good intentions but excessive enthusiasm. Overcrowding the container. It's easy to want your lucky bamboo to look abundant. More stalks, more pebbles, more decorative objects, more meaning. But this isn't how energy works. When you cram too many stalks into one vase or overwhelm the arrangement with ornaments, bells, or figurines, you're compressing the qi. You're telling the universe, I don't trust simplicity. I want more, even if it's suffocating. And that message ricochets throughout your space. Lucky bamboo, at its core, teaches restraint. Space is wealth. Breathing room is prosperity. A clean arrangement with room between stalks and a bit of open water is far more powerful than an ornate jungle of anxious abundance. Give your wealth energy room to move. Don't choke it with excess. The third mistake is placing your lucky bamboo in darkness. Yes, bamboo is resilient. Yes, it can survive in low-light conditions. But surviving is not the same as thriving. This plant still needs natural rhythm. It needs to feel the sun, not directly or harshly, but peripherally, intuitively. Placing your bamboo in a completely shaded corner, under a cabinet, or next to your shoes in a dim hallway might keep it alive, but it strips it of vitality. A healthy bamboo stalk should glow slightly, reflect light gently, and reach upward over time. That reaching is energy expressing itself. If it sits dormant for weeks without movement, ask yourself, is it in darkness too long? Try placing it where it receives soft morning light, filtered through sheer curtains, or near a window that sees the skateboarding boom. You're not trying to sunbathe it. You're trying to let it feel the pulse of the natural world. And finally, mistake number 4 is one most people never consider: the container itself. Using plastic pots or sleek glass vases without anchoring elements undermines the grounding function of the bamboo. In Feng Shui, earth is not just a physical material, it is the force of containment, stability, and trust. Bamboo that floats in empty water with 8 pebbles or stones may look minimalist, but energetically it becomes unanchored. It becomes flighty, unable to hold chi at the root level. Always house your bamboo in something meaningful: ceramic, porcelain, clay, or thick glass. But only if that glass includes grounding components like river stones, weighted coins, or earth-tone pebbles. And these aren't just decorative. Stones act as metaphysical stabilizers. They tell the plant and your subconscious that the prosperity you are growing is rooted, not floating, not drifting. Each of these missteps, while subtle, carry emotional symbolism that can quietly shift the way energy flows in your home. And the beauty of Lucky Bamboo is that none of these mistakes are irreversible. You can reset at any time. Rinse the water, reorganize the stalks, give it more space, add weight where needed. What matters is not whether you've made these errors, but whether you're willing to correct them. Because bamboo, like prosperity, always offers a second chance if you care for it with presence, not just habit. Who benefits most from this plant? Lucky Bamboo isn't a plant you choose when you want to sprint toward a goal. It's the one you bring home when you're ready to root, when life no longer feels like a checklist of accomplishments, but a quiet negotiation with energy, time, and self-direction. Its magic isn't in acceleration, it's in alignment. It's not for the ones chasing numbers, it's for the ones learning to listen. That's why this plant serves a very specific type of person in season. If you're an entrepreneur navigating the tides of unpredictable income cycles, the Lucky Bamboo is your silent advisor. It teaches you how to grow steadily, even when external results fluctuate. While others may chase growth through burnout, this plant reminds you that wealth is not always loud. It's about momentum that moves like water, resilient, flexible, and uninterrupted. Set a bamboo arrangement near your desk, not as a superstition, but as a quiet ritual. As you refresh the water and observe its growth, you'll begin to sense the return of rhythm to your work, the kind that doesn't rely on pressure, but on presence. If your household is currently under renovation, facing relocation, or navigating a major life shift, divorce, elder care, new children, or even grieving a loss, the Lucky Bamboo becomes an energetic stabilizer. These are the chapters in life where walls are unfinished, routines get rewritten, and the energy field of a home becomes unstable. A few stalks of bamboo in the southeast corner or near the entrance provide more than aesthetic. They become placeholders for balance. When everything else feels transitional, they remain upright. They remind you visually, energetically, that life is allowed to change, but the flow doesn't have to stop. That piece doesn't require everything to be perfect. It just needs one rooted element to hold space for stability. For creatives, especially those whose projects rely on inspiration and emotional availability, this plant offers subtle guidance. It doesn't stimulate like a caffeine rush. It doesn't demand like a looming deadline. Instead, it asks for soft consistency, the kind of focus that doesn't require a mood, but a return. Place your bamboo near your creative tools, your camera, your canvas, your journal, your design desk. Don't wait for clarity. Let its simplicity model what your work can become when you show up gently, again and again. Creativity is not a sprint, it is a spiral. And Lucky Bamboo holds the center of that spiral with calm. And then there are parents, especially new ones, or families with children in dynamic stages of growth. Whether you're building a routine for a newborn, holding space for a teen's identity formation, or managing the unspoken tension that builds during long days and short nights, this plant becomes an anchor. Children respond to energy more than instruction. They feel when a space is balanced, when the adults around them are rooted. Placing lucky bamboo in shared living spaces doesn't just improve flow, it creates a field of calm visibility. It teaches without speaking. It says, we don't need to control everything to feel safe. We just need rhythm, flow, soft structure that bends but never breaks. Energetically, this plan is not for the ones who want to dominate the market, finish first, or be noticed. It's for those who are learning to hold space instead of fill it, who know that mastery is not about speed, it's about sustainability. It's not chasing the wind, it's adjusting the sail. The lucky bamboo belongs in homes where people are becoming more intentional, not more intense. Where success is measured not just by outcomes, but by how it feels to wake up in the morning, by whether or not the space around you supports you or silently exhausts you. So if your life right now is in motion, but not in control, this is the plant that stands with you. Not to fix you, but to accompany you, to remind you, stalk by stalk, that progress is still progress, even if it's quiet, even if it grows in water, not in noise, even if no one else sees it, but you feel it every day. Final in Feng Shui, luck is not a windfall. It's not something you stumble upon or manifest out of thin air. It's something you align with, something you create, not through force, but through calibration. And no plant teaches this truth more quietly, more effectively than lucky bamboo. Because real strength, as this plant reminds us, isn't about standing still. It's about learning how to move without losing your root. It's about growing in water that isn't always clear, about rising in spaces that may not be perfect, about holding your shape when the current shifts. The lucky bamboo doesn't ask for rich soil or a wide field. It asks only for your presence. A little water, a ribbon, a space to stretch toward the light. And in return, it reflects something sacred back to you. That prosperity, resilience, and personal stability are not dramatic flames. They are quiet flames that stay lit when the winds of life pick up. So as we close today, I ask you, not as a question to the screen, but as a prompt for your space in your soul. Where do you need to flex? Where in your home or your life has your energy become too tight, too brittle, too rigid to grow? Is it a part of your routine that's become more of a cage than a container? Is it a relationship where you've stopped listening? Not because you don't care, but because your spirit is too tired to keep bending. Is it your definition of success so sharp, so fixed, that you've forgotten how to soften into the journey? Let lucky bamboo show you what flexible strength really looks like. Let it be the companion that doesn't push you, but shows you how to move with grace, how to recover with elegance, how to trust that flow is not the opposite of direction. It's how direction becomes sustainable. If this video helped you feel the power of simplicity in a new light, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you already have lucky bamboo in your home? Has it changed the way your space feels? Has it taught you anything about your own patterns, your pace, your prosperity? Leave a comment below. I read every single one, and it's through these shared reflections that our community continues to deepen, not just in information, but in intention. And if this message resonated with you, even quietly, please share it with someone else who's planting a new chapter in their life. Someone who's tired of chasing and ready to begin growing with care. And finally, I gently invite you to subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every voice here helps carry this message forward to homes not just filled with objects, but with energy that knows how to thrive. Because in the end, it's not how much you hold. It's how much of what you hold knows how to hold you back. And lucky bamboo, this quiet, humble, graceful plant, just might be the first reminder that strength lives not in force, but in flow.